My husband tried to trigger my asthma attacks with his deodorant to win custody of our son, but his evil plan backfired. I, 35 female, never thought I would be posting here, but I really need perspective on my situation. I have been married to Marvin, 36 male, for 12 years. We met in college, dated for 2 years, and got married when I was 23. We have a 7-year-old son Tommy who means everything to me. Our marriage was pretty good for the first few years. We had our issues like any couple but nothing major until 2014 when everything changed. I developed a severe allergy to aerosols after a bad reaction at work. I was in marketing at the time, and during a product demo, someone sprayed an aerosol cleaner. I had such a severe reaction that I ended up in the ER. Since then, my symptoms include severe asthma attacks that feel like someone is sitting on my chest, hours of uncontrollable coughing that leaves me exhausted, and days of post-nasal drip. I have been hospitalized twice because of particularly bad attacks. My doctor says my sensitivity has gotten worse over time due to repeated exposure. Marvin has always been extremely particular about his appearance and personal hygiene, to the point where it sometimes feels obsessive. Even in college, he would reapply deodorant 4 to 5 times a day. He uses Axe body spray and deodorant religiously, before work, after gym, before bed, basically any time he feels less than fresh. When I first developed this allergy, he actually seemed really understanding. He threw out all his aerosol products and switched to roll-ons and stick deodorants. But after about 3 to 4 months, he started complaining that the non-aerosol products weren't working well enough. He said his coworkers could tell when he was sweating and it was embarrassing. I suggested several alternatives, even bought him expensive natural deodorants, but he insisted nothing worked like Axe. He started using aerosols again, saying he would only use them in the bathroom with the fan on. Over the past 8 years, I have had more asthma attacks than I can count because of his sprays. I've missed important work meetings, had to skip family events, and even had to cancel Tommy's 6th birthday party last year because Marvin decided to spray his deodorant in our bedroom right before the party started. I was coughing so badly that I couldn't even sing happy birthday to my own son. Tommy was devastated and kept asking if Mommy was mad at him for having a party. I have tried everything imaginable to make Marvin understand how serious this is. I showed him all my medical reports. I made appointments with my allergist and brought him along so the doctor could explain the severity. I even recorded myself during an attack to show him how bad it gets, the wheezing, the struggle to breathe, the panic in my eyes. His response? He accused me of being dramatic and said I was trying to control what he does in his own house. His family, especially his mother Linda, has been no help at all. Linda is very traditional and believes wives should adapt to their husbands, not the other way around. She constantly makes comments about how sensitive people are these days and how in her time, people just dealt with things instead of making a fuss. She tells Marvin that I'm trying to change who he is and that he shouldn't let me control him. Last Thanksgiving, she deliberately sprayed air freshener all over her house before we arrived, claiming she forgot about my allergy. I ended up spending the holiday in urgent care while she told everyone I was being difficult on purpose to ruin her dinner. Things reached a breaking point last week. I was helping Tommy get ready for school in the bathroom, helping him brush his teeth, when Marvin came in and sprayed his deodorant without any warning. I immediately started coughing and couldn't catch my breath. Tommy got scared and started crying, which made me panic more. I had to use my rescue inhaler twice before I could breathe properly again. Through all of this, Marvin just stood there rolling his eyes and telling Tommy not to worry because Mommy was just being dramatic again. The worst part came later that day. I overheard Marvin telling Tommy that Mommy was just pretending to be sick because she wants attention and likes to control what other people do. He told our 7-year-old that real allergies are only to things like peanuts and bee stings, and that Mommy was making up the deodorant allergy to be difficult. Tommy came to me that evening and asked if I was really sick or just acting. My heart shattered into a million pieces. My own child was questioning if his mother was lying about being sick. Yesterday, I tried one more time to talk to Marvin rationally. I suggested he could use his sprays in the garage or outside where the ventilation would prevent the fumes from spreading through the house. He got angry and refused, saying I was being controlling and trying to dictate what he could do in his own home. He brought up his mother again, saying she never had problems with his father using sprays, so clearly I must be faking it or exaggerating. When I started crying out of pure frustration, he accused me of emotional manipulation and stormed out. My sister thinks I should leave him. She says anyone who consistently and deliberately does something that causes their spouse physical harm doesn't really love them. She points out that this isn't just about the spray anymore, it's about Marvin's complete disregard for my health and well-being, and his willingness to turn our son against me. But I'm terrified of breaking up our family. Despite everything else, Marvin is a good father. Tommy adores him and they have a great relationship. I don't want my son to grow up in a broken home just because his parents couldn't figure out the deodorant situation. I have started documenting every incident and keeping detailed records of my medical visits and expenses related to the attacks. My doctor says that prolonged exposure could make my condition permanently worse, and she's worried about the long-term effects on my lungs. I feel like I'm going crazy. How can someone who claims to love me be so comfortable causing me physical harm? Am I really being controlling by asking him not to use something that sends me to the hospital? Is my marriage worth sacrificing my health for? I don't know what to do anymore. I need perspective from people who aren't emotionally involved in this situation. Am I overreacting? Should I just try to live with it for Tommy's sake? Or is my sister right? Is this a hill worth ending my marriage on? Update 1. First, I want to thank everyone who commented on my original post. Reading your responses made me realize that I wasn't crazy or overreacting. Many of you shared similar experiences or medical knowledge that helped me understand my situation better. I took your advice about being more assertive and documenting everything. After reading your comments, I sat down with Marvin for a serious conversation. I told him that I couldn't continue living in fear of having an asthma attack in my own home. I explained that either he needed to stop using aerosols in the house completely, or I would have to stay with my sister for a while until we could figure out a better solution. For the first time in years, he seemed to take me seriously. Maybe it was because I was calmer and more firm than usual, or maybe the threat of me leaving finally got through to him. He agreed to only use his sprays in the garage. Things actually improved for about a week. Marvin kept his aerosols in the garage and I didn't have any attacks. Tommy seemed happier too, probably because there was less tension in the house. I started to feel hopeful that maybe we had finally turned a corner in our marriage. Then last Tuesday, everything fell apart. I was doing laundry and sorting through Tommy's school things. While cleaning out his backpack, I found a small can of Axe body spray hidden in a side pocket. At first, I thought maybe one of his friends had given it to him. Some of the boys at school had started using deodorant. But when I asked Tommy about it, he burst into tears. Through his sobs, Tommy confessed that Marvin had given him the spray about 3 days after our talk. Marvin had told Tommy that Mommy was lying about being sick and that the spray was actually harmless. He told our son that sometimes Mommy acts difficult and tries to control everyone, and when that happens, Tommy should spray a little bit of the deodorant around her to prove that she's faking. Marvin had turned my 7-year-old into a weapon against me. I can't even describe how I felt in that moment. Angry doesn't begin to cover it. The betrayal was crushing. Not only was Marvin endangering my health, but he was also manipulating our son, teaching him that it's okay to doubt someone's illness and actively try to harm them. He was teaching Tommy that it's acceptable to hurt someone if you think they're being difficult. When I confronted Marvin about it, his reaction was shocking. Instead of apologizing or showing any remorse, he immediately attacked me for going through Tommy's things. He said I was invading Tommy's privacy and trying to turn him against his father. When I pointed out that he was literally using our son to cause me physical harm, he said I was exaggerating and that if I really had an allergy, one small spray wouldn't hurt me. The argument escalated quickly. In his anger, Marvin revealed something that made everything even worse. He had been talking to his mother about divorcing me for months. Linda had been encouraging him to document what she called my emotional episodes as evidence of mental instability. She told him that my allergy was just an excuse to control him and that no judge would give custody to someone who was constantly sick and unable to care for a child. They had been building a case against me while pretending to work on our marriage. I called my sister immediately. She came over within an hour and helped Tommy and me pack some essentials. We've been staying with her for the past week. Marvin has been alternating between apologetic messages about how much he loves us and wants us to come home, and angry threats about custody battles and how I'm alienating our son from him. His mother has been busy too. She's been calling everyone we know, telling them I abandoned my family over something as trivial as deodorant. She's painting me as an unstable, controlling wife who's using a fake allergy to manipulate her son. Some of our mutual friends have already taken their side, sending me messages about how I'm overreacting and breaking up my family over nothing. Tommy is confused and upset. He feels guilty about telling me about the spray and keeps asking if Daddy hates him now. I've assured him that none of this is his fault and that both his parents love him, but I can see how much this is affecting him. He's having trouble sleeping and got into a fight at school yesterday when another kid said his mom was crazy. I've contacted a lawyer who specializes in family law. She says we have a strong case for endangerment given the documented medical history and especially Marvin's attempt to use Tommy to trigger my attacks. I never wanted things to get to this point, but I don't see how I can go back now. How can I ever trust Marvin again after this? How can I live with someone who was willing to use our child to hurt me? Right now, I'm focusing on keeping Tommy's routine as normal as possible and documenting everything for the inevitable legal battle ahead. Marvin's latest message says he's willing to go to counseling, but after discovering the extent of his deception, I don't know if there's anything left to save. Update 2. I never expected this update to turn out this way. When I last posted, I thought I had hit rock bottom with discovering Marvin using Tommy to trigger my asthma attacks. It turns out that was just the beginning. 3 days ago, I received a call from Sarah, a woman who works in Marvin's office. I had met her a few times at company events but didn't know her well. She was hesitant at first but said she felt morally obligated to tell me something. Sarah revealed that Marvin had been having an affair with Chelsea, their new HR manager, for the past 6 months. The most twisted part. The excessive use of Axe body spray wasn't just about his hygiene anymore. Chelsea apparently loved the smell and found it attractive. Sarah sent me screenshots of conversations from their office group chat where Marvin and Chelsea were openly mocking my allergy. They had turned it into some sort of sick game, deliberately using more aerosol products when I was around to trigger my attacks, hoping I would eventually get fed up and leave. The screenshots showed Marvin joking about how he had finally found someone who appreciated his signature scent instead of claiming to be allergic to it. Chelsea would respond with laughing emojis and comments about how convenient my allergy was for giving Marvin an excuse to come to her place. They had even started timing how long it took for me to have an attack after exposure, treating my suffering like some sort of twisted experiment. His mother Linda was in on it too. There were messages showing she knew about the affair for months. She had been covering for Marvin, creating excuses for why he was late coming home and even letting him and Chelsea use her house for their meetups. All those times she deliberately used air fresheners around me. It wasn't just about being a difficult mother-in-law, she was actively trying to drive me away so her son could be with someone she approved of. When I confronted Marvin with the evidence, he didn't even try to deny it. Instead, he turned it around on me, saying I had pushed him into Chelsea's arms with my constant complaints about his deodorant. He claimed that my allergy had made him feel insecure and unattractive, and Chelsea helped him feel like a man again. He said he found someone who appreciated him for who he was and didn't try to change him. The argument got ugly. He admitted that he and Chelsea had been planning for me to leave for months. The whole custody threat was part of their plan. They thought if they could prove I was mentally unstable and physically unfit, he could get full custody of Tommy and they could start their perfect little family. Chelsea had even been consulting with her friends in HR about how to document workplace behavior that could be used against me if I tried to fight for custody. I felt physically sick reading through all the messages. All those times I was gasping for air, terrified of having a severe attack. They were laughing about it. The man I married, the father of my child, had turned my medical condition into entertainment for his girlfriend. Every time I had blamed myself for not being understanding enough, for not finding a better solution, he was actually plotting to use my illness against me. Tommy overheard part of our confrontation. He came running into the room when he heard me crying and saw the texts on my phone. Marvin tried to grab the phone, but Tommy saw enough to understand that his father had been lying about more than just the deodorant. My 7-year-old looked his father in the eye and called him a liar. Marvin tried to hug him, but Tommy ran to me and wouldn't let go. My lawyer says this changes everything. The evidence of deliberate medical endangerment, coupled with the proof that it was part of a planned effort to force me out of my home and away from my child, strengthens our case significantly. She's particularly interested in the workplace harassment angle, given that Chelsea was in HR and was advising Marvin on how to manipulate company policies against me. I'm still processing everything. The betrayal goes so much deeper than I ever imagined. It wasn't just about the deodorant or even the affair, it was about a calculated plan to harm me enough that I would leave, while making sure I would lose my son in the process. The people I trusted most were treating my health condition like a joke, all while plotting to use it to destroy my life. Marvin keeps trying to contact me, switching between apologizing and defending his actions. His latest message says Chelsea broke things off after everything came out at their office. Apparently, she didn't sign up for this much drama. His mother is still defending him, telling anyone who will listen that I drove her son into another woman's arms with my unreasonable demands. The divorce papers are being prepared. There's no coming back from this level of betrayal. Update 3. It's been 3 months since my last update, and I finally feel ready to share what's happened. The divorce proceedings are well underway, and things have taken several unexpected turns. My lawyer has been amazing. She's using the evidence of Marvin deliberately endangering my health and involving Tommy in it as the cornerstone of our case for primary custody. The recordings I had made of my attacks, along with my extensive medical documentation, proved invaluable. But what really strengthened our case were the screenshots from Marvin's office group chat. The messages showing him and Chelsea deliberately planning to trigger my asthma attacks were particularly damning. The workplace angle exploded in Marvin's face. After Sarah exposed the affair, several other co-workers came forward with their own screenshots and stories. Turns out Chelsea had a history of inappropriate relationships with employees she was supposed to be managing. The company launched an investigation, and both Marvin and Chelsea were fired for creating a hostile work environment and misusing HR resources. Chelsea apparently tried to delete the incriminating messages, but Sarah had already saved copies. Marvin's mother Linda tried to intervene by calling Child Protective Services, claiming I was an unfit mother due to my medical condition. It backfired spectacularly when the caseworker reviewed the evidence showing them deliberately causing my attacks. The caseworker was particularly disturbed by Marvin giving Tommy the spray and instructing him to use it on me. Tommy is in therapy now. He's struggling with anger toward his father, not just for lying to him, but for trying to make him hurt me. His therapist says he's showing signs of anxiety and trust issues. He refuses to see Marvin unless I'm present, and even then, he gets anxious if Marvin makes any sudden movements. The therapist recommended supervised visitation only, which the judge agreed to. Marvin's life has fallen apart since losing his job. Chelsea left him immediately after they were fired, apparently telling him she never meant for things to get so serious. He's been staying with his mother and sending me bizarre messages alternating between blaming me for ruining his life and begging me to take him back. He even tried to claim he was developing an allergy to aerosols too, probably hoping to gain sympathy. Linda is still on her campaign to defend Marvin, but it's not working like it used to. After the CPS incident, most of our mutual friends looked at the evidence themselves. The screenshots of them mocking my illness and plotting against me changed a lot of minds. Even Marvin's father finally stepped in and told Linda to stop interfering. As for me, I'm slowly healing. My asthma attacks have reduced significantly since moving out. I haven't needed my rescue inhaler in weeks. Tommy and I are living in a small apartment near my sister, and we're establishing new routines. He's started making friends at his new school, and his teachers say he's doing better. The divorce should be finalized within a few months. My lawyer is confident about getting primary custody with Marvin having supervised visitation only. There's also a stipulation being added about no aerosol products being used around Tommy or in any space I might need to enter. Sometimes I still can't believe how my marriage ended, not over the usual reasons like money or infidelity alone, but because my husband chose his deodorant over my ability to breathe. But then I remember it wasn't really about the deodorant at all. It was about respect, trust, and basic human decency, none of which Marvin had for me in the end. I'm focusing on Tommy and myself now. We're both in a better place, literally and figuratively. Sometimes the worst betrayals lead us exactly where we need to be.